when one falls.
Dim, dam, dadilam, vaca. Clair, obscur, troublera, tu trouveras effet. Clair, obscur, noir et haut, peinture trouveras sans elle. Clair, obscur, troublera, tu trouveras effet. Clair, obscur, noir et haut, peinture trouveras sans elle.
There was a time when 30 was young, you know.
Sure.
In a stacked year of contenders, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is my current game of the year, and it's already a new all-time favorite that will stick with me for years to come. I spent every moment not playing thinking about it. It's a special piece of art that can move you in more ways than one. A beautiful mix between Octopath Traveler's turn-based combat and break system, Final Fantasy's aesthetic and composition, a parry system that mixes Paper Mario and Sekiro, then put it all into a blender with the movie Annihilation, but starring a Charlie Cox who looks like the Lighthouse version of Robert Pattinson.
What?
Finally, set it all in La Belle Époque, a period of French Enlightenment characterized by cultural innovation and a fervent patronage of the arts. This aggressively French JRPG, developed by Sandfall Interactive, a new developer founded by former Ubisoft employees, is a bit of an anomaly. A complete experience with no microtransactions and no technical issues for only $50 at launch that excels in every arena. It's 10s all the way down. Music? 10. Whether it's soft touches of piano and chords or well-placed orchestral booms, it's the sparing use of French vocals that accent the game's hypest moments. It really is the peaceful time with a record and a campfire that I remember the most though. Similar to Lies of P, collecting a new record brought a strange thrill every time. Graphics and art direction? 10s. This is a beautifully realized world of watercolor wonders and Lovecraftian horrors. Different locations are so distinct from others that when you travel through them in sequence, you can very easily orient yourself, but it's expansive enough to make you feel like exploration is still exciting each time the story hands you new ways to explore. There's so much flavor in this world. The little candles of their melted Eiffel Tower, the rose wreaths for those about to gamage alluding to their family's past, the statues of legends strewn about Lumiere, the paintings in the world that tell a deeper story when you're able to piece it all together. It all builds a world that feels distinctly real in response to an unbelievable circumstance. The world pushes you forward to discover its secrets, but still willing to let you linger in a way that feels narratively consistent. Is life worth fighting for if you just survive? Gameplay? 10. This is honestly a contender for top billing. Who said turn-based was dead? Because between this and all these bangers over the last few years, there is clearly a lifeblood of passionate developers out there pushing the envelope on what turn-based gameplay can do, and I gotta say, the way to my heart is a parry option, so giving me turn-based combat with a reactive parry system is like a marriage proposal, and I say yes. What's really amazing is how engaging the system is on both sides of the ball. On attack, you're engaged through the QTEs to maximize your passive effects, and on defense, you're looking to memorize the enemy movesets to dodge or parry, with the parry having a tighter window, but more chance for skill expression if you execute the whole way through. Really though, it's probably a tie between the gameplay and story for the best parts of this package. The story was perfectly paced, characters I wanted to know more about appeared at perfect intervals, information was dispensed and answered in a way that kept me hooked because there are always crumbs falling off the table for me to scavenge like a lore goblin, and when I thought they'd go unanswered, they reared back around satisfyingly. The voice acting and writing is phenomenal, incredible work done by the legendary Andy Serkis, fan favorite Charlie Cox of Daredevil, Jennifer English of Shadowheart fame via Baldur's Gate, and Ben Starr, a voice actor quickly building an impressive rep through his recent work on Final Fantasy XVI and the first Berserker Kazan. Oh, and the French is good too, I guess.
Oh, tu sembles sous-estimer l'engouement de Lumière pour l'expédition. Il y en a au moins 5. D'accord.
Sounds good to my ears anyway. This is a game that asks you what you would do or feel if you knew, to the day, how much time you had left on this earth, and the lengths you'd go to protect those you leave behind. In an alternate version of France called Lumiere, the world is fractured by a giant monolith and scattered onto the island 67 years before the game begins. The painter sits at the base of the monolith, and each year scribes a number on the tower, the age at which everyone in the world will die. We're a part of Expedition 33, and the goal is to kill the paintress who slowly chips away at the world year by year. This game actually felt uniquely resonant to me as it dropped 2 days after my 33rd birthday. In this world, I'd have 1 year left to live, and I couldn't stop thinking about that as I engaged with it. I like to think that I'd also go on the expedition to change my fate, but really it just made me ask questions about what I'd do with the year I have left. Would I cherish more moments or be swallowed by regrets? For months, I have felt like my soul itself is impotent, unable to rise for a single creative pleasure. This game single-handedly pulled me out of a deep depression that has gripped me for months. It didn't cure it, but it lit a spark in what felt like my cold, dead heart and fired me up to make this video after months of feeling no drive or passion for my own creative soul. Art is a process, and the act of it can feel like salvation when you're adrift in life. If nothing else, I'm extremely grateful to all the people involved in the process of making this piece of art that didn't just move me, it made me move my ass forward, because there really isn't a day to waste. So yeah, go play this, go in blind, drink up the splendor and hope of this world with a milkshake straw, and bask in the light of une bonne aventure, without spoilers. For everyone else, you'll notice the video's not done, so listen to me yap for the next hour in depth about the story, characters, world, themes, music, and more. Let's explore this beautiful tale of light and dark, or in other words, I'm Dennis from That's for the Birds, and this is Clair Obscure Expedition 33, When One Falls. So yeah, I said the thing, roll credits. Light and dark aren't just powerful thematic elements, they're the translation of the game's title. And Clair Obscure is a French translation of the Italian term chiaroscuro, which is used to describe strong contrasts of light and dark within art. Like other great pieces of art, clues to understanding it are laid out from the very beginning. A game built off painting terms was just the first hidden message. But it wouldn't be the last. I mentioned game flavor, but hindsight makes these moments stick out like blaring alarms. The culture of the world is dreamlike in a way that for much of the experience had me racking my brain on how it worked with the clues that I had. Is it time travel? Is it a mirrored world to their island? Is it all a dream? Only to finally slot together the pieces like the painting of a puzzle. There's just so much to love here. I want to start with the story behind the story though, the real world, and how this family tragedy bled through onto the canvas to create the one that we experience in real time. I'll talk about the gameplay and characters in detail after, and then go through my experience of the game, touching on the themes and lovely interactions we have along the way. There's chapter cards if you want to jump around, otherwise, settle in as we embark on Expedition 33. So the general timeline is that there is a real world, and in that real world, it is painters versus writers. The Descendre family is the focus, with a mother, a father, and 2 sisters and a son. Verso, the son, creates Lumiere within a canvas, a whole world that thrives in art and music especially. But when Verso dies and Alicia is disfigured, the fault of which is vaguely attributed to her by way of the writers, Maman retreats into Verso's canvas instead of processing her grief. It's the only way she feels close to the last remaining piece of Verso, his soul left lingering in his art. This creates the fracture. Papa joins Mama in the canvas to get her out, but he's not as good as her, so she will win if he doesn't have help. Maman creates Verso with his memories intact yet undying, Alicia with her disfigurements when she could have healed her, and Renoir as a pure villain in service to her. This is her perception of the ideal version of him, since the real one is in her mind at odds with her goal of remaining in the painting, which is true, but it's because she'll die in there like an otaku stuck in a simulation where he has a girlfriend. When Papa enters the world, he becomes the curator and Maman becomes the paintress, using these as manifestations of their power in this world. This creates the process of the gommage. Maman is using the chroma from the world to sustain it and the remaining inhabitants, and to continue to create in Verso's world. Without the gommage, the entire world will collapse, so unbeknownst to them, this mass death ritual is the only thing keeping what remains of them alive. That said, the destruction of the canvas is only deemed necessary because Mama has an unhealthy attachment to it. If she had a healthy relationship with it, and in turn her family, Papa wouldn't be driven to destroy it, and Clea, the oldest daughter, wouldn't be driven to assist him in the task. Papa wants to take Mama out because she'll die in there, leaving her body behind, so he resolves to destroy the world and let Verso rest. This really is just making an entire world collateral in one family's grief and refusal to seek a therapist. Verso doesn't really want to end the world, but he will in order to save his mother. So, back in the real world, Alicia, drowning in grief from her brother's passing, goes into the painting after hiding it from her mother, but she can't maintain her sense of self and is isekai'd into a baby body and given a Verso-like adopted brother in Gustav and an older sister in Emma, who, while we really only engage with once in the story, she fits the exact same tone as her real sister Clea. She is exasperated by Maël and wishes she'd just stay safe, but when she is determined to leave, Clea lets her walk her path and leaves Gustav to protect her. So, Papa as the curator is pushing you to release the paintress, but will not tell you why. And when you do succeed, fully awakening to your paintress memories, Malicia is born. Memories from both lives intermingling, her depressing war-torn life in her old world and the tragic but in many ways more loving post-apocalypse of Lumiere. And through this process she evolves from co-anime protagonist into a god. The new goal becomes to gather enough energy to take control of and recreate Verso's world.
Clair-obscur, trouble de rature, courera et fait. Clair-obscur, voir des hauts peintures, trouvera sans elle. Clair-obscur, trouble de rature, trouvera et fait. Clair-obscur, voir des hauts peintures, trouvera sans elle.
For the briefest moment in Act 2's ending, my heart wavered. Whoa, is this what they're doing? An all a dream ending? Is this game actually ass? But within 5 minutes of dialogue and some deeper thought, it was back to peak. It isn't a dream. These people had lives, whole histories. Minoko even questions his own nature. Is he a loyal friend because he was painted that way, or is that who he is? Verso can reply that they're just doodles and to accept it, or he can reaffirm his identity and sense of self. Ultimately, they just happen to exist in a world where they have a definitive creator, and by virtue of their nature, they support and are supported by the god who wins out in the end. The canvas is many things to many people, from original creator who saw it as a refuge and curiosity, a successor who turned it into an escape from her trauma, a usurper who seeks to upend the status quo by figuratively and literally killing their gods, the frenzied flame of the world. And finally, a redeemer who recognizes the humanity of the people and creatures within the painted world. It doesn't read as just an escape from grief for Alicia in the same way as her mama. While still desperate and hopeful, no doubt affected by the grief too, she is physically scarred by the violence of her world. It's left her unable to communicate like she used to. And because she literally does have two memories of two childhoods, one doesn't feel more valid than another. It's a real space that deserves fighting for. A dream worth fighting for. So, gameplay and combat. The way that combat flows and how you can speed it up to action level paces is exhilarating. You have a turn-based system with the ability to manipulate both your turn and the enemy turn order. All the enemies can be broken, leading to stuns, and this turn-based break system is reminiscent of many in the genre, but the parry system is where the game begins to shine. Now, there are games that have done a perfect guard parry system while turn-based, namely Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, but this is distinguished more by its ability to negate damage and less by its ability to counter. So in this game, there is no guard option. You either dodge with a wider window, parry with a tight window, and in order to counterattack, you need to parry an entire sequence, anywhere from 1 to 8 attacks in a row, with some enemies that can triple up their turns and do 24. But there are also tons of ways to build around counterattacks. Skills that buff the damage, give you more AP, give you passive buffs, weapons that do buffs or AP boosts. So this means that there is a noticeable skill ceiling for fighters who can take advantage of the massive DPS that comes with doing those counters. There are so many cool builds in the game, like nearly unlimited AP through gunshots and marked shots and more, or auto death and explosion on death, instantly breaking and burning an enemy and then having them auto revive so you can have two teammates die immediately, damage the enemy on turn 1 and come right back to life, or let them stay dead for a solo run, which honestly might be the easiest way to play when you know what you're doing. There are 5 solo Pictos, which only cost 13 Lumina altogether. They give you Rush, Protect, Powerful, 100% crit, and 50% more damage when alone, so you can have your teammates die on turn 1, I get all the buffs that trigger, and on top of that, because you don't have to spend the Lumina on any other teammates, you can have one person with hundreds of Lumina spots, meaning they can have every single perk available to you. I wouldn't recommend this for a first run, but I definitely think it's an interesting way to play the game. One of my favorites in the endgame was actually insane burn procs via double burn, Mael's fire-based skills which do more damage with more burn stacks, and Verso using the Corpesso weapon and Combo 3 to do stacks that can exceed 100 burn every time he gets a turn. Bars. The way you can bend this system is amazing. I was able to get 147 million damage in a single hit once with Mael, and this doesn't even come close to the maximum floating around of over 1 billion. I mean, I beat Simon in 2 hits. It just lets you break it at the kneecaps if you want to. Excessive is putting it lightly. Beyond combat, there is party composition to factor in. This is such a vital part of the game. You can have any character pump out 100,000 damage swings by the end, but learning how to compose your team to maximize their efforts is key. A simple example was my primary party during my first playthrough, Ciel, Verso, and Mael. Ciel can pump out ridiculous damage, but she also has the ability to double a teammate's damage, buff them for multiple turns, or even force them to move next like a follow me feature. Verso can be a gradient build or breaking machine as you build up his perfection to ramp up damage and set up defenseless via his base attack. You can even take advantage of Ciel's follow me skill to queue up his 2-turn steeled strike and use it before the enemy can disrupt him. Mael does take some setup originally to keep yourself in Virtuo's stance, but between the other two, getting the stars to align is vital and feels intuitive. You're going to quickly learn to get flame going, stance change yourself into Virtuos, setting up a second turn of 200 plus damage increases. Pair that with Ciel and you'll see why that was my main party. Narratively though, there is another side to this. Who should be on the team? Well, To me, it depended on the section of the game. During Act 1, it made sense to include CL when we got her, so who would I remove? Well, Gustav felt like the main character, and Maëlle is so central to the game, she's also like a main character. I never felt like I could remove either of them from the story, so Lune unfortunately had to go. It created an interesting sense of, well, role-playing, and makes it so that on subsequent playthroughs I wanted to try different combinations. There are lots of choices that can change the game, whether you help the Nevrons, romance your teammates, the endings themselves are built on fundamental choices. They all felt meaningful enough with the focus on the narrative beats fleshing everything out. There are also choices to explore the world. If you do a mini-game and get a key at the beginning of the prologue, you use that key about 20 hours later to get a journal. You'll find weapons in the world, and they're varied enough that all the way into New Game Plus, I was trying new ones. There are some that are just standouts as clear-cut winners for large chunks of the game, especially when you get them, like Medalla for Maëlle, which puts her immediately into Virtuo stance, and by winning the Gestural Arena against CL with her, you get it much earlier than you would otherwise. But there are lots of interesting weapons for each character which promote parry play or first turn play or support and more. The Picto and Lumina system is the beating heart of this game though, both in a gameplay sense and a narrative one. In gameplay we get 3 skills, each one comes with perks, and once you've battled enough to learn the Picto, you can use it as a Lumina. This Lumina is not just new to us, it's new to the world. Gustav invented the ability to convert these Pictos into Lumina, meaning that for generations, expeditions have gone up against a god with 3 rocks in their pocket, whereas we show up with a fucking jewelry store. Oh, and I'll say it again, there's no game that isn't improved by a grappling hook. It's snappy and fun to use. It's great. Part of the gameplay also relates to the camp, a space to relax and take stock, which leads to a lot of great character moments, levity and laughter or deep wells of sadness. The whole gambit takes place around the campfire, and we don't just see it from a main character-centric view. There are multiple interactions in the game that don't involve Gustav, Verso, or Maëlle at all. This is great. Side characters can sometimes feel like set dressing, their existence only validated through interactions with the protagonist. But these people have their own lives and histories, which works well with the narrative building up to them being created, but having lives of their own. There's an overworld, and it is classic RPG shit. Great to see. The tilt-shift aesthetic is nailed in the overworld and was easy enough to orient myself when traveling based on some specific landmarks throughout the regions, and you can even use shortcuts to link these regions together after the fact. Ultimately, there is so much game to play in this game. Mini-bosses, mini-games with Gestrals or Nevrons, relationship talks, flying, swimming, diving, combat, just listening to the music at the campsite. I never felt overwhelmed with the options, but I also never felt like I needed more. All things balanced as they should be. I mentioned them in the party comp and how they shine in quiet moments of the story, but the characters here are so memorable and distinct. We learn a lot about them, and they help flesh out this world and the story beautifully. So here's an internet-friendly numbered list of my favorite characters. The gaps between them are minuscule, and none of them would rank lower than an A for me.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Esquier. I'd like to say it's close, but it's not. He's peak. Peak performance, peak friend, peak public transport system. He's the glue that holds this team together. He saved CL's life at her darkest moment. He hugs everyone on the team whenever they need one. He inspires children in Lumiere as a legend. He loses his rocks on purpose just to spur adventures. A beautifully silly sack of wine that I love. Created as a bundle of adventure and joy, he does that in spades. In the words of CL,
You're the best. Mon ami.
I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 Monoko, a Gestral with history. His bond of manly love with Verso is great. He's a goofball, but very stoic at times, giving a nice back and forth. He's giving Yoda in some fun ways, and the realization that he was created as a personification of Verso's loyal pet dog is so on point. I would 100% do the same thing. He's just a good boy who is wise beyond his many years. I also really fuck with a blue mage fighting style in games, where you collect powers from the enemies and then use them against them. Shouts out to Hikari from Octopath Traveler 2. It's all fucking sick. And he's a blue mage with a twist. You have a wheel that spins, and depending which setting it's on, it can boost moves of that type, and then you can just ride that rhythm. Then a weapon that will boost upgraded skills by an additional 30% will come along, or you can spin the wheel when you parry, so it all felt very engaging to play and satisfying when you're able to game its system within a system, or use boss moves to demolish characters. It's an all-time favorite RPG character to experience for me.
Get out of my way!
Jeez,
Gustav, our engineer, Act 1 main character, and a guy who never misses an opportunity to leave a sentence unfinished. I loved him before I knew he was Daredevil, but learning it only made small moments even better to me. He's an earnest, loving person who really can't get out of his own way at times. Caught up in his mind, he waited until Sophie's gommage to really show how he feels, but was there for her all along anyway. It is sad that the choice of children and having them in a doomed world is what kept him apart from the woman he loved, when in the end he had none without her anyway. The great love of his life leaves an indelible mark on him. He goes through emotional roller coasters from hope to despair, contemplating ending it all. He's the type of person who wants to hope though, so hope works well as a deterrent for his worst impulses. His loss in the story works precisely because he's so endearing while he's around. His gameplay itself is a little subdued as his weapons don't get the skills provided to Verso later, but he makes up for that in the early game via his overcharge ability.
Still feel immortal?
Less than yesterday.
Shall we test it out?
Ciel is the most well-adjusted person of the group by a wide margin. She is realistic about her chances, positive when appropriate, understanding and empathetic when people make mistakes, and she'll crack a joke or flirt in a way that breathes life into the group. Couple that with her awesome Scythe tarot card aesthetic and flashy moves, she's an easy pick. Her rhythm is very weapon dependent. Some promote stacking moon or sun skills specifically, while others really push you to the Twilight stance, while probably her strongest team build is her support class with the weapon that gives AP to her whole team.
Are you real? Well, you sure smell real enough.
Mael is a sweet girl who reminds me of a younger sister or niece. Her eventual rise to godhood is paced out in a way that she doesn't want to abuse her power, because she doesn't really view it as an unhealthy way of keeping Verso alive, because she is one of the few who will just accept that Verso may look and sound like her brother, but he's his own man. Her trauma feels real, and there is so much guilt wrapped behind it that you just want her to find her way back to the light. Her fencing style and eventual paintress movesets are probably my favorite in the game. Using her both felt narratively and extrinsically satisfying. She is incredibly strong, and her animations are incredibly cool. You'll find a quick rhythm of moving back to Virtuo's stance as quickly as possible to maximize the damage. If I have a critique here, it's really that Virtuos is objectively the mood you want to be in nearly at all times. There's no drawbacks at all. I think it would have been improved by putting 50% damage received increase on Virtuos and removing it from offensive. Still, it's loads of fun, and if you like big numbers and lots of burn, she can be a killer. The reason that Virtuos stands out though is so there are moves like Rain of Fire, which technically are improved by using the defensive stand. But if you use Medalla with the Virtuos stand, you actually do more burn procs by a significant margin, so there is no reason not to.
You're tired of painting, aren't you? I'm tired too.
Verso may not be my favorite, but he's certainly one of the best. The best written, the best playing, the best acting, it helps too then that we focus so much time with him as our central point. Most relationships feed their way through him, and since Gustav had his own history with those characters, it isn't ground that necessarily needed to be tread until a new face enters the scene. Ben Starr fucking nails it though. He's on a real tear. His gameplay can be summed up as the storm that is approaching. His high-hitting EI/ abilities are extremely satisfying, but I ended up making him a gunshot merchant after getting his duelist weapon, and really pouring on the basic attacks to build up that perfection meter, which only expanded with the use of Corpesso.
Been a long time since I've seen you play.
Someone had to be last, and ultimately it just came down to how gung-fucking-ho she was about we continue during the scene where they wanted to bury Gustav. But even then, one of the next scenes at the campfire is her apologizing to Mael. Earnest and honest reflections over their mistakes and a willingness to address them is really great to see. She has incredible moments. Her relationship with her parents and the expectations of her perfectly align with the struggles Verso faces, and while I suspect most people will romance Ciel because it's offered much sooner, I felt more rewarded for connecting with Lune as the game went on. She's like an ogre. She's got layers. Her gameplay early on makes her feel like an Ice Lance machine.
What is my purpose?
You proc slow.
Oh my god.
Later on though, when you're generating more light stains and can combine the elemental tick or crippling wave, you'll very quickly be able to max out your damage output via elemental genesis.
She's not the only one who grieves. The pain of losing you, she made me inherit it. Punishment, perhaps, for not being there when it mattered. I refuse to lose my son.
That son was a stranger.
But you're not. You're not.
Renoir, I'm not grading him against the rest really. He's an easy S tier, an all-time video game villain, and one of the most well-written antagonists I've ever played against. The amount of care that went into both Andy Serkis's incredible performance and the writing of this character can't be understated. He is, in many ways, not in the wrong here. It's really just his methods and demeanor that come off as wrong by the end. His motivations are extremely understandable though, simply going as far as he feels is necessary to protect his family. The Paintress version of him, less so, as he's really just a tool up to that point, but even there, he's just like Verso, a tortured existence with memories forced upon him but very little agency. His OST theme is also fucking insane in the end. I wish we got his actual drip though. The Renoir suit without the fly-ass cape jacket is a disservice to Parisian fashion. I also really wish he was playable in some way. His gameplay looks incredible. There are others like Golgra or Noko or Francois who do a great job of fleshing out this world. I especially love the journal entries from the other expeditions, with 60 being my absolute favorite. Just a bunch of folks who said getting jacked and strong is to the pinnacle of human capacity is how we're gonna win, and owning that as an identity is fucking hysterical. The expeditions themselves become characters though, both in the killer ending and through marks they leave behind, like how the climbing expedition is the only reason we have handholds in the world, and that there are notes suggesting other expeditions helped improve them. Ultimately, I really just came to love the idea that bonds can transcend time and dimension, and how the additional story twists added a layer of complexity to those relationships. The world is both visually stunning and unique in its direction and vibe. When you finally realize it's all a canvas with multiple painters competing for supremacy, it adds so much context to the imaginative elements that flesh it out. Each area felt well paced out and ramped up in a spectacle as the game proceeded right to the ending. I mean, the world has this magnetic pull to it. You see a spinning gate to leave the tilt-shift overworld, and maybe it's got trees you've never seen before on the map, or they stand out against their surroundings so much that you just feel compelled to explore. The way the world engages with the creatures and how they're recontextualized from their painted origins is pretty interesting. The fact that the characters are some ways analogous to people that Verso knew in the real world, that gestrels were playful things that he loved to be around, that Nevrons were created by Clea specifically as antagonists to the people within this world in order to stop the Paintress. Sidebar, I love the Petunks and how they remind me of the cats in Octopath. Or how cute the gestrels are when some of them try a shakedown on you and you have to call an ambulance. But not for me. Or how one of them is doing the "this is fine" meme. Or another that loves breakdancing a ton, and how they all love to fight and had an entire culture prior to the fracture built on art instead, but became warriors by circumstance, and the former tribes of peaceful ones called the Grandis are nearly extinct. And don't you see the vision here? This world just has so much sauce. I mean, just listen to this shit. Seriously, I'm as smart as a sack of bricks when it comes to music theory, but there is an undeniable amount of care put into this OST. The very term Clair Obscur has relevance, but the lyrics to the song Clair Obscur also tell a story. It speaks of Gustave's dome protecting them, Renoir painting the sky, which is a double meaning for both Renoir the father and Auguste Renoir the famous painter, or how a blurred erasure will bend the Eiffel Tower's spine, and while watching over the painting, you find it on your own. Aside from feeling extremely French, its choice of music and instruments conveys tone and helps amplify emotional moments, like how in Act 3 especially, many of the songs seems to layer over each other in a way that feels like a struggle, mirroring the two worldviews in conflict. The instruments competing against each other, the now booming male vocals with a driving bass beat in contrast to the softer octaves and lighter chords of hope we'd had until now. This felt like the very gods of this world locked in a harmonic struggle that matched the plot. Speaking of the plot, let's go through it and engage with its themes. In an alternate France, the world is fractured by a giant monolith and scattered onto islands 67 years earlier. The Paintress sits at the base of the monolith and each year draws a number on the tower. The number is the age at which everyone in the world will die. We are a part of Expedition 33, and we open to Gustave, Maëlle, and Sophie, friends, family, and in Sophie's case, a great love of his life. The world is drenched in detail, statues of legends like Esquier, people who hug their loved ones or lament fighting with them. Some listen to music or watch performances as they have a final celebration of life for those about to gamage. When the gamage occurs, everyone aged 34, the oldest people in the world, all evaporate into a mist of petals. Their hands slipping through grasping fingers as their loved ones feel their final touch disappear like a ghost. The opening is heavy, and while we're given glimpses of humor and friendship, there's an immediate tone setter here. In this world, orphans are a regular occurrence, and many go into the expedition in hopes of changing their fates. But there's also beauty, community. People have come together to care for those left behind. They're so close-knit that everyone seems to be on a first-name basis in a way that feels believable. We also get some really subtle clues from the beginning to Mael's real history. She says outright,
Lumia is not my home. Not the way it is for you.
Instinctively, she knows it at her core. The music swells and we embark on an adventure, but when landing, optimism is snuffed out like a light. The oldest man any of them have ever seen comes and cuts through their hopes expeditiously.
Fall back!
In a rare moment of earnest brutality in video games, the main character contemplates Sudoku before a consistent theme is presented. Lune, a fellow companion alluded to as a potential match for Gustav, offers a hand when hope is lost, a push forward to keep moving on. When one falls, we continue. This idea persists through the game. The whole group gives up, then things are lost. We see plenty of journal entries testifying to that in the game. But if they support each other when things are darkest, they have a chance. At any point when someone loses hope, it's because they aren't alone that they press on. We find Mael in an ethereal manner smack dab in the middle of an incredible location. Coral reefs with floating fauna and giant monsters swimming through the air, putting previous enemies to shame. Here too is another clue. We find her in a specific room, and while we don't know if Verso left her there specifically or if she found it on her own, she chose Alicia's room, which we confirm later on, finding her music record in the attached bathroom. The manor is central to the story of the game and only becomes more relevant as the game progresses. It's also where I have some criticism. These puzzles can feel completely esoteric at times. I was fortunate enough to run up against an item while pressing square, and it took way longer than I'd care to admit to figure out what I was supposed to be even looking for, but the game lets you fumble around in the dark, something games are so hesitant to do these days, so I appreciate them trusting me. It's here that we finally meet my favorite little critters, Gestrels. They're adorable if I haven't said that enough. Their context as a child's creation is so perfect, because of course they are. And it's in meeting Chef Golgra in what I can only describe as my ideal training environment that we come across another companion. CL is our final challenger in the arena, and as the party comes together, we are quickly collecting a group that has clearly been close for many years. Despite the circumstances, the ease at which they all fall back into old times is really endearing. Peppered throughout the game is a series of time freezes. Only Mael can move, the camera aspect ratio changes, the color changes, and it always features one of the mysterious antagonists of the game. They dole out scraps of info that really just had me continuously theorizing until the very end. Some of my early contender theories were Renoir is a future, woocher, timey-wimey version of Gustav that grew his arm back. Okay, it's not the strongest theory, but I also thought it was obvious that Mael and Alicia had some sort of connection that felt like a mirror of sorts. I just hadn't pieced it all together yet. Finally, we get to Esquier, my beloved. What a beautiful sack of wine, my favorite since the Franzia bag in college. He was also one of the more mysterious characters in that he laid a ton of hints that things were more connected than they appeared. He's just a sweet cinnamon roll that feels so central to the experience. I felt like Alice falling down the rabbit hole and seeing the caterpillar I met outside now smoking hookah, except that caterpillar isn't a dick. He's a beautiful, beautiful man. I don't know what Esquier is. We're approaching the end of Act 1, and it ends with a bang as Gustave dies to Renoir, the real asshole of this production.
For those who come after. Right?
No. You promised!
My theories were going absolutely mental by this point in the game. With Maëlle escaping via an explosive force that pops her cage and cooler Gustav shows up to scare off the bad guy with the threat of quality time with his daughter, the intrigue is skyrocketing. How do they know each other? Why is this a kindness? What is special about Maëlle and their connection to it all? It's also followed up with some incredible acting as everyone gets to grieve the loss of what was our main character. And it's not an ass pull. Gustav is fucking dead. This is where I was really pulled in. It's bold, and while they add Verso in, he's so different and mysterious in comparison, and clearly he's up to something that we aren't aware of, that they really do feel like separate characters despite filling the same archetype. It also gives us a pivot to a new main character, so while Maëlle's time is coming, and she's got a hate boner the size of the monolith, I feel like the second act is led by Verso for the good portion because our relationships are through his lens, as we start to build them around the campfire with our best boy Esquier, or through time alone with the ladies. Verso gets a chance to connect with Maëlle as an older brother figure, Ciel or Lune as a comfort in trying times. The different approaches to romance here are even nuanced, because Ciel is a widow who seeks comfort in physical touch. This is casual and fun to her, and the potential of getting her husband back later on puts a healthy end to it all on good terms, while for Lune it's a slow burn. You connect on a deeper level through your passions of music and your mutual struggles with family legacy. On my first playthrough, I naturally gravitated to Ciel, who felt like the warm arms keeping our group together and positive despite an obviously tragic past. And that she offered to have sex with me very early on, and I'm a simple man. Lune is a real nerd though, and that's neat. The game even has dialogue to acknowledge which way you go with Lune, noting she's happy for Ciel, but can't help think of what could have been. Maëlle is really going through it.
Everywhere we go, just death. Death and more death. Everywhere we go, just death.
And naturally grows to see Verso in the role he was ultimately made to fill in both the narrative sense and the internal world-based sense. An older brother. Ben Starr kills it in this role, and there is a reason people keep calling him the next Nolan North. It's also neat that as these relationships build, we get stronger, unlocking new abilities. The game is diegetically conveying that the strength of your bonds is worth pursuing. The world opens up even further now as Esquier turns into a boat and grants us wider access to the map. Features like Esquier being tied to both story and relationship increases is great. It engages with that Metroidvania flavor as you re-explore areas that were previously barred to you, and really, exploration is such a core part of this experience. That is probably going to sneak past a lot of people's praise in a game filled with things to praise, but you're really incentivized to become a Picto collector and search all over for them, and interesting new weapons to use. The Lumina system building on that collectathon by letting you learn and share the skills with your team made me excited every time I found a new one, even if it seemed like I'd never used it. In almost every case, I did at some point. Except for the tint ones, I never used those. We start Act 2 on a heavy note, obviously. Maëlle and Ciel are locked in grief, Lune wants to interrogate us for all we know, and while you can explore with your new crew member, you want to sort of progress straight to the Forgotten Battlefield, because the upcoming fight with the Duelist gives you one of his best weapons, allowing for a second turn after a basic attack, letting you combo into strong moves on second turns much earlier than you'll acquire the Cheater ability. In the middle though, we get an interesting interaction. If you try to speak to the ghostly woman as Verso, she turns you away curtly, but speaking with her as Maëlle leads to another bit of intrigue. She knows you. She says to enjoy your fun, but to let her do her thing. We know this is Clea now, but it felt so curious in the moment. The game continues to excel at laying down a solid foundation of mystery to slowly unravel. The Duelist fight is sick as hell. The finale was incredible, as the team does a combined cinematic dismantling of him to end the fight. Verso is suitably cocky and confident, but clearly backs up his words in action. Being 100 years old will give you some experience. In general, Verso's introduction is handled exceedingly well. He gives us lots of information in a place where concrete info is scant, but that's welcome, and there's obviously more to it that hasn't been revealed. It's at the end of this battlefield where we find a solitary tree. Its blood-red leaves accent the graves, littering the space, and it's here where we lay Gustave to rest. Maël and the expeditions are absolutely torn up, and Verso re-experiences the grief of his fallen comrades, marked by their solitary grave swords. We grab my second favorite boy here though, Monoko, who is as funny as he is endearing, with a fascinating combat style to boot. He is extremely wise. I love the system, I love the way that he interacts with the characters, and I love that ultimately he is an expression of something primal, loyalty, love, the essence of a good boy. Progressing into Old Lumiere, much of Verso's deception begins to crumble as the team is separated. Between journal entries that reveal his hidden lineage to the interactions with Maël, Alicia, and Renoir, this is the first real wedge in the group since his arrival. Old Lumiere in general is so fascinating. It's the center of their old society, the foundation it was built upon. It's got one of my favorite Monoko moments.
Why the hell did you...
Sorry, I fucked up. I just wanted to show off.
Poor guy. And the swords which destroyed the city and the Axon looming over it are great foreshadowing for the hardest experience of the game. By this point though, I had a firm theory in my mind of some sort of mirrored or painted world. I definitely thought all of the Neverons were painted into this world, but clearly not by the Paintress, because while Renoir is on the Paintress's side, Alicia and the Mistress are more ambiguous, and the Mistress seemed to be the one who actually painted these characters. I still couldn't piece together the connection between them and Maël though, as she seems to be able to uniquely affect the world around them at times.
Everyone all right? Okay.
The loss of Noko here is another weight. The Gestrals are pure beings, yes, they're fighters, but they're really just a culture who rolls with the hand they've been dealt. More accepting of death due to their cycles of rebirth, but Monoko knows the cost. No one ever comes back the same. The Noko they loved is gone forever, and his resolve is strengthened by fresh grief. The cycle continues. With this path to the Paintress's heart close to them, they use knowledge gained from the journal Lune found to pursue a new path. The mysterious curator, keeper of the manor, and our silent blacksmith knows the way forward, to kill what Verso says is unkillable. The Axons, titans of this world, larger than mountains and more powerful than anything they've faced. Hundreds of expeditioners have died, thrown against the wall of this insurmountable challenge like pigs to slaughter. So exploring the world grants you lots of good weapons and skills, but the bits of lore are the juiciest. A conversation in the Fallen Leaves area between the Lady of Sap and the boys stands out as another hint to where everything sits. These Gommage goats we meet are the fragments of the soul, the little boy being the original Verso, the woman is Clea, the man in the top hat Renoir, etc. Whereas the Painted Lady and the Curator and Maël are their actual manifestations within the canvas, and Renoir, Alicia, and Verso are creations of them for various reasons. What's clear here is that no one who says they care about Verso bothers to listen to what he would have wanted, and the poor young soul is distraught over it. The game offers you choice here. You can either go to the weakened Axon at Visage Island, or the healthy one at Cyrene. Both are basically some of the coolest areas in the game, and incredible fights in the end.
This looks similar to Lumiere's shield dome. Maybe we can just cross it.
Yeah, sure. axons first. It's okay. You'll be fine. You want to try again?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I originally went with Cyrene for a skill I heard was at the end of it, and because I figured if I can top the hard boss, I can quickly mop up the weaker one. The choice doesn't end there though, as on Visage Island you can choose to progress through various paths leading to rewards and mini-bosses, but can optionally go straight to the boss thanks to a personal invitation, while Cyrene gives you the option to defeat her Weaver, making her fight easier. Both of these fights have ways to engage with the world around them to make the individual boss fights easier to manage. These fights are also great in how they give other team members time to shine in personal stakes. Lune is especially connected to Cyrene, where her side quest reveals that her parents died on this island. Finding their journal gives her a real chance at closure. We come to learn that the axons were created by Papa, and they are all parables. A tall one meant to inspire hope that you could reach the stars. The siren's call, referenced in one of his journal entries, speaks of its haunting allure and the need to resist those who would seek to stay you from the path you should be on. The visage is about remaining true to yourself, as we all occasionally wear masks, but the why and how is vitally important. Bit by bit we see the tragedy behind Renoir, watching his only son die, his youngest daughter disfigured, and his oldest daughter lost in the fires of revenge. Now, his wife, to quote Renoir,
She's left us all behind to drown by ourselves so that she can drown alone.
It doesn't really excuse the tyrannical control he seeks over the situation, but it does explain it. However, the strength of these axons leads Mother to trick Simon, one of the greatest fighters of all time and Verso's best friend, into becoming her puppet. It's his golden swords that destroyed Old Lumiere and its axon, and only after he'd already learned the truth did he stop, fueled by his love for Clea. However, his placement in the game is a sign of his tragic path. Tricked by Aline into going down there to try and defeat the father, he lives in the abyss now, mind broken by the curator, trapped under the monolith until we come to release him from his torment, where he is jacked the fuck up thanks to Clea's love, and it's a fight you cannot handle until way later in the game. For now, with the axons defeated and the barrier breaker created, we finally proceed to the monolith. Still unbeknownst to the crew, aside from Verso, that every step brings their world closer to doom, not salvation. It's interesting that this very light, melancholy song begins to play as we approach the paintress, soft and inviting, a playful arpeggio of strings and chords. A haunting choir begins to lay down their dulcet tones and we hit this brick wall of a boss. She's impervious to damage no matter what you throw at her. And that very lack of reaction pushes Maëlle forward though. This is a facade and the truth lies within the tower. Verso holds Maëlle as she burns, a projection from the mother's mind, recreating the events that scarred their whole family. In reality, she's trying to keep them out as a last-ditch effort to protect the canvas. The monolith itself is a sick-ass level. We go through each biome that the game threw at us in rapid succession, battling all of the impressive enemy variety the game has to offer in a gauntlet as we climb the Tower of God. That's good shit, you should go read it. Throughout, we catch vignettes of the mother's life and her strained relationship with her family, the love and the loss. Before the paintress, however, we have to deal with Renoir, and this entire scene is drenched in tragedy. At the time, their words remain mysterious, but you can feel the hurt and loss and ultimately the bitter resolve. This interaction is only improved by the full reveal to come. The final fight with the Paintress is a whole-ass spectacle. This multi-phase set piece sees her attack us in full force after concluding that we must be tricks of her husband.
I don't like this.
Eventually, the battle takes to the sky, and she uses a mountain-sized stand to try and extinguish this flame that threatens to burn down the very essence of the canvas. All this leads to the final stage where she stops fighting and instead heals the expedition, because ultimately, the root of her grief is in some way compassion for the people of this world. She wants to protect them in Verso's dream. She falls into the embrace of this Verso as her strength leaves her, simply asking why. The music swells and the Paintress is released by Mael, but in that moment, her memories begin to blend, the contact and her real name triggering something in her like the Winter Soldier. There's something foreboding about the ending tonally. The energy coming from Verso and Mael does not scream victory, but that's just a prelude of things to come. By now, people paying attention in class will have noted that this is supposed to be a final boss, but since most stories follow a 3-act structure, we seem to be about a third of a story short. Their homecoming is the definition of bittersweet. Many are happy, but some mourn the loss of those who didn't return as well. It's here that the game went fucking bonkers for me though.
Your mother paints life, whilst your father, death. What will you paint?
Everyone gets fucking dusted, and we flash back to the past, seeing the events that led to the conflict we've spent our whole game addressing. We meet Clea, who sucks, seeing our parents locked in a paint struggle and the origins of the locations and enemies we've seen in the world strewn about their workshop, as well as this good boy. The whole world is a canvas painted by this fucked up family, and embroiled in their generational trauma. It was all just so cool to me. Like I said, there was a brief wavering of my heart. Was it all a dream? Is it really that simple? No, it's not. The twist of the painter's reveal makes this one of those special experiences that is enriched on a second playthrough. Little hints like flower petals falling gently through the game lead to the Act 2 twist. The fact that when Nevrons kill, the chroma remains trapped in the body, but when Renoir kills them they go mage, which alludes to his status as something different. He is a creation of the paintress, so when he kills, they go mage, giving her more strength, whereas when Nevrons kill, because Clea created them as a way to help the real Renoir kick out Maman, that way she couldn't absorb the energy via the gommage, trapping that chroma and making them useless to her. The conversations with Renoir, the painting motifs all over the world, the ghostly conversations with the essence of this world's creators, it's all pretty great.
She's a girl. She's a girl. She's beautiful. What a lovely voice. My love, did you decide on a name?
Yes. Oh, my darling girl. We have precious little time together. You'll never know us. But I want you to know that you are loved. I want you to know you're not alone. You will always be the beautiful child I held in my arms. You will smile the brightest smile. You will cry iridescent tears. You will know love, and you will know pain. You will know loss all too well, because we live in an unforgiving world. But you are strong, and you will survive. You will struggle, and you will learn. You'll find people to call your own, and you'll shine as their guiding light. For you will change the world, and the people around you. You'll forever be our princess. I have decided on her name. And her name will be Maëlle.
At this point, the world opens up fully as Esquier gets Sori back and becomes a plane for us, and there is so much to do if the mood strikes you. A giant snake that is mentioned as having eaten Verso can be fought in the sky. We can visit the canvas and get the original painting of our family. We can go to the tallest axon at the tower and provide closure for Alicia and Verso. There is so much to do because it's narratively consistent that we have to gain strength and unveil the mysteries of this world, which will help us battle Papa at the end and flesh out the story in the many facets before we reach him. The journals we find give Renoir pathos, while the painter's workshop and Endless Tower with Clea helps us better understand her motivations and make her softer edges shine through at times. It's probably here or after the end that you'll face Simon and all the insanity that entails. You can finish the Lost Gestrals, fight in arenas, find side characters to finish their quests, Finish the Nevron quest. The world is still filled with wonders all the way to the end. The end of this game is a final assault on Lumiere, with the ghosts of all of the expeditions at our side. It is peak. They dart in and take out enemies in our path as we run forward. It feels suitably epic. The music crests and falls in a roller coaster as we approach the heart of Lumiere to battle our father. Crossing over the roofs we began the story on, the sky is darkened and moody, red lightning strikes the ground, setting the tone, but we push forward.
Papa?
Alicia.
Please, I just want you to understand what this canvas means to me.
I do understand. I know how powerful and intoxicating it is. How deeply attached we can become to the worlds we pour our hearts and souls into. I was enthralled, and it nearly killed me.
It doesn't mean you have to erase Verso's canvas.
Child, do you think I want to? After all the sorrows we've endured, do you really think that I want to destroy this last piece of his soul? Enough. I said, enough.
This deep family trauma becomes a kaiju fight as Maman returns to the canvas to assist her daughter in the most direct way since the fire.
Mama.
You're going to kill yourself. It's too soon for you to return to any canvas.
As a sidebar, the creator as a boss is so good. His paintbrush turns into a sword, it's a multi-phase fight of spectacle, and when he summons the family canvas to go even further beyond, Mael rejects the law of anime transformations and literally cuts his move short in an insane plunging strike. Absolute cinema. Through sheer force of will, Mael pushes Papa into accepting her agency, trusting her finally in a real sense, seeing her as a person and not a delicate doll to protect. It's really quite beautiful, but we're not done yet. As one final choice appears, do we support Mael in her quest to preserve the canvas, or Verso, whose creation itself was a mechanism to cope, and his existence as one of contradiction and pain? They're all looking for peace but tortured with turmoil, and the only thing that can break this cycle is acceptance. Together they debate the virtues of this world, of living in the real one. They know that this victory has the potential to be hollow and temporary, and Verso seeks to end it all, tortured by his own existence. The Mael path felt natural to me. We have the power to save everyone, and that includes Verso, because an end isn't what he really seeks. It's a life, to live his dream. The Verso path, however, feels completely wrong in comparison. He fights the one he loves, becoming the man he hates, ending her dreams and the lives of all of his companions. Mael doesn't even fight back. She just pleads with him to stop. Verso has one last interaction with all the people he's doomed. A final embrace from his closest friends, a final touch or glance from his potential lovers, a final goodbye to the last bit of the soul he was built from as they fade away along with the canvas into darkness. That's about as bad of an ending tonally as it gets, a submission to nihilism that this world and everyone in it doesn't matter. We get a final epilogue in this ending with the real Descendre family all gathered at the grave of Verso. Clea walks away, not content to sit in mourning. This ending does have a slightly hopeful moment though. As the distance between them narrows, their parents embrace, showing that this process, if nothing else, has been therapeutic. Our final shot lingering on our friends who go mage as Alicia stands alone, once again. It makes the option to continue all the more dissonant, as this almost makes it into an actual fantasy. This is a dream, the world is gone and we're just wading through its memories. Meanwhile, the good ending gives everyone ultimately what they seek. In a stunning final montage, we see the world preserved, our family and friends restored. We see the world as it should be, with people pursuing their passions and connections that they've built in that pursuit of happiness. The family is back in the real world, and we put trust in Alicia that she will find a balance. 10 out of 10, hopeful as fuck, I love it for that, right? Well, okay, I'm willing to agree, it's not that simple. The actual tones feel reversed here, and there is nuance. The quote-unquote bad ending ends on a hopeful note, bathed in light, visually soaked in color, while the good ending, quote-unquote, ends in black and white with a stoic Verso, now aged, pressed to play on by a Mael who has fully embraced her role as a paintress herself. Just this dark, foreboding view of her eye melted away into the paint. Clair obscure, light and dark in contrast. The whole game ends like a question. How does this make you feel? What was the right choice? What is really interesting about how the painted world becomes recontextualized is through a side moment with Mael, who says her father only paints an allegory. He talks about the ending being less important than the journey, that art is only the perception of control, but contentment can be found in the process of creation. It's incredible how much depth the game gives its protagonists and its antagonists, really lending understanding and empathy to tragic figures. That same recontextualization makes Alicia even more tragic. She was painted this way, fractured and broken, the mother so lost in their grief over their dead son that they neglect their living daughter in both worlds. They blame her for the events that caused Verso's death and punish her accordingly. Her notes say she can't even stand to look at her, a living reminder of what's gone. It really is a rumination on grief and growing attached to the things we pour our souls into, whether it's damaging or not. The ending is so haunting and beautiful, the lives gained, the lives lost. Verso begs for death, but ultimately, he didn't want to die. He just wanted to be able to die, to grow old, see time passes, and experience the dream that he has, instead of being left to linger as everything he loves dies around him. He was created as a coping mechanism, a being trapped by the expectations and machinations of those grieving the memory of the man he was based on. Can existence like that feel fulfilling? Is the ending positive? I don't really know. I choose to see the hope in it though. I choose to believe that a balance can be found both inside the canvas and out, and that the bonds made are worth the fight to maintain them. Because when one falls, we continue. Thanks for watching.
Il est obscur.
Oh, and just so no one accuses me of not being a complainer, I've got some complaints. I get caught on rocks or bodies or lamps as I walk around all the time, which is annoying. I think the hitboxes on those things suck. I wish I could remap controls. The particle effects and general spectacle is so good most of the time, but occasionally shifts from sick as fuck to what the fuck is happening. Simon has consort Radon level blindness at times, but I think he looks way cooler as a fight. I would have liked a bit more time with some of the early expedition homies. If you talk to them at all, that's really all you get. And the other companions are so sick that I would have loved one or two more to engage with. And I wish there was an autoplay function for the conversations, which can feel really choppy if you aren't on it perfectly to progress the conversations naturally. That's mostly it. I've got really overwhelmingly positive feelings about this game, and 2 playthroughs deep, I can tell you I will be playing this game for years to come. Be safe, y'all. Thanks for sticking around for the video as well as here on my channel. I mentioned it up top, but it's been a very hard time for me recently, and this was nice to release some of that through the process of art. If you like us, like it. If you love us, sub us. If you care, share the video. Goodbye.